And it is time. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to HackSmarter Live. My name is Tyler Ramsby. I am your host. Super excited to have you taking the time to hang out with me this evening. As we get started, do want to let you know I am live right now on 3 different platforms, so you can join on whatever platform works best for you. But I am live right now on YouTube, Twitch, and LinkedIn. On YouTube and LinkedIn, I'm under just my name, Tyler Ramsby. And over on Twitch, you can find me under hack_smarter. So twitch.tv/hack_smarter. But whatever platform you're joining me on, it is an honor to have you here. Most of the time, LinkedIn doesn't work well with the chat, and it's kind of working on the web app, kind of, but it's working better on my phone. So for those of you on LinkedIn, usually I can't see the chat half the time just because the LinkedIn Live platform is just, I don't know, bad. They don't know how to do comments, but I am keeping it pulled up on my phone, so I think we should be good there. I'll try to monitor that. But hey, as we get started, before we start recording, just want to say hello to everyone over on YouTube, at least in chat. We have the one and only Eric Taylor. We got Rob Sarupriya, if I'm saying that right, Dear Parmar. We got Doc G Money Gaming. We got Kevin Usuin. We got Zach Jowick. Zach, I can't say your last name, dude. I know you told me how to say it, and I already forgot. Zach Joaquin? Joaquin? I don't know, bro. We're just going to go with that. Dario TG on Twitch. We got Bottleneck and Nefos. Over on LinkedIn, we got Issa, Niraj, Jared, Thomas, Michael, and Jingzong, if I'm saying that correctly. What is up, everybody? And a bunch of other people now jumping in the chat room. Good to have you guys all here. Looking over at the streams, it looks like everything looks good. Hey, if anything looks off or sounds off, please let me know. I am a one-man producer show. I have no one else producing this. This is all me live in real time. So if anything's broken, let me know and I'll do my best to fix it. Nefo says, hey, great to have you back. Seems like ages since your last stream. Dude, my last stream was like less than a week ago, but I'll take it. I'm glad you missed it. All right, everything is looking good. All right, I'm going to start recording. We'll get into all the fun red team training. I'll give you guys some context then, but I'm going to start recording for the YouTube. So this will be for the recorded video, but also happy to interact with those of you live on stream. So as we work through this, if you have questions about pen testing, red teaming, cybersecurity careers, feel free to ask it. Happy to answer questions as we work our way through all of this fun stuff. Things good. So you got a bunch of people on LinkedIn. That's awesome. Honestly, quite a few people on all 3 platforms, but LinkedIn's blowing up. It's exciting. All right, here we go. I'm going to start recording. Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to do some red team training. Specifically, I'm going to walk you through pretty detailed instructions on how a red teamer sets up phishing infrastructure. We're going to go everything from like finding a domain, registering a domain, setting up DNS records, getting Evilginx 2 set up, setting up our phishing lures, all while we work through a lab on Pwned Labs. Now, I'll share all those details in just a moment, but I need to be really clear. Like, what I'm going to show you can be used for evil. It really can, and I want to be very clear with this disclaimer. Do not do any of this unless you have written consent, like you're targeting an organization as a pen tester, as a red teamer with written consent. Do not use these powers for evil. And that's kind of the crazy thing about pen testing cybersecurity. It's sort of like a superpower, right? And it can be used for good, but can also be used for bad. And what I'm going to show you are the tactics that real threat actors use when it comes to phishing attacks. Now, I'm not going to show everything. I'm not going to show you how to bypass some filtering on email stuff because I don't want to give you too much power. If you're a true pen tester, red teamer, you can figure that out on your own. But I am going to show you quite a few things. So once again, disclaimer, only use this for educational purposes or in your role as a pen tester in a home lab. Do not use what I'm going to show you for bad things, for unethical stuff. Cyber criminals are not cool, all right? Don't be them. Be ethical. Be on the good side of things. With that as my disclaimer, let me go ahead and share my screen and show you guys what we are working with. So first, we're going to work through a lab on Pwned Labs to do a lot of this. Now, if you've never heard of Pwned Labs, you need to check it out, pwnedlabs.io. What pwnedlabs.io IO is, it's sort of like Try Hack Me or Hack the Box, but all focused on the cloud. So they have a bunch of labs that cover AWS, Azure, and GCP in very realistic environments. And the cool thing about each one of these labs is they have full detailed walkthroughs. So even if you're brand new to the cloud, you can follow along with the walkthrough, take good notes, and you'll be able to learn your way through it. One cool thing they just released, I want to show this off since I'm using their platform for this, but they have cyber ranges. Now, I can't show you this because I don't want to show you the flags, but the first cyber range that came out is called the Thunderdome, and it's a red team environment where you have to compromise Azure, AWS, and GCP as you work your way up through Thunderdome. A total of 9 flags, very real world kind of enterprise environment, and everyone with premium access to Pwned Labs get access to this, and to get a premium account at Pwned Labs is only $200 for the entire year. Now, if you've ever looked into cloud pen testing resources, you know how incredibly affordable that is. So hey, if you haven't checked out Pwned Labs, would encourage you to check it out. But the lab that we are going to be working through is a premium lab. So they have a bunch, I think over 40 completely free labs that you launch and you can work your way through. But this one is a premium lab. So if you want to follow along, you need a premium Pwned Labs account. But if you don't have one, that's fine. You can kind of live through me and I'll share with you the full steps as we work our way through this. Now, if you're new to Pwned Labs, here's the way to find the lab. I'm logged in right here. I'm just going to click latest labs. And here it is, bypass Azure MFA with Evilginx, and we will click start pwning, and we're going to go ahead and turn this lab on. Now, I'm going to go ahead and check out chat, make sure I'm not missing anything. All right, everyone just saying hi, what is up, y'all? Nefo said, Thunderdome is absolutely awesome and the best I have ever done. That's cool. That's good to hear. Yeah, honestly, the Pwned Labs team killed it on the Thunderdome. It's such a cool challenge, super unique. I've never seen anything like it in all the other platforms. Looking over at LinkedIn chat, let me actually check my phone, make sure I'm not missing anything here. Mana said, is the recording going to YouTube? Absolutely. This will be on YouTube. I'll probably even break it up in a few different videos, but yes, everything you're seeing right now will be on my YouTube page afterwards, which I guess good self-promotion. If you haven't subscribed to me on YouTube, you should. If you go to youtube.com and then Tyler Ramsby, this is my YouTube channel. So if you're watching on LinkedIn or if you're watching on Twitch, hey, I can encourage you to subscribe to me on YouTube. This is my primary platform. If you want to watch all my videos, YouTube is where it's at. You can see I have 385 videos, all of them very in-depth, covering different walkthroughs, different career advice, how to get CVEs, how to do security research. No fluff. I think what probably sets me apart from other content creators is I try to be the anti-influencer. And here's what I mean. I do coaching for free. I have an entire coaching team. We offer one-on-one services to people free of charge. Really, donate what you can. You donate to a nonprofit of your choice. We come alongside you. We offer one-on-one coaching. We're not charging you a bunch of money. We're not doing stupid boot camps that are ripping you off. Those things drive me crazy. I'm not charging you $200 an hour just to meet with me to get some generic advice from some silly influencer coacher. I don't believe in paywalls, right? Everything I do, all the content I create, everything I give back to the community is all free. I don't do any paywalls with what I do. I'm gonna keep it that way. I'm not interested in your money. I make enough money doing what I do as a pen tester. I don't need to try to get money off people trying to break into the industry. If you are one of those influencers and you're charging people to help them, just stop, right? If you're good enough at what you do, you don't need to make money from people trying to break into the industry. And if you're not good enough at what you do and you need to make money, well, you probably shouldn't be coaching people, right? If I offended you, sign off. I don't care. Peace. But if you do enjoy my content, YouTube is where it's at. This is where you can get all my music, all my videos, but I do have music. If you haven't heard Black Hoodie On, it is the greatest hacker rap song, Grammy nominated. I'm going to perform it at DEF CON as soon as someone at DEF CON calls me and gives me a spot. Make sure you check that out. But let's dive into the content. Quit messing around. Here we are, bypass Azure MFA with Evilginx. Now we're gonna work our way through this lab, but I'm gonna provide probably a bunch of additional context of what this looks like in the real world as a pen tester or as a red teamer. So here is our scenario. We're on a red team engagement for the consumer tech titan Mega Big Tech. Social engineering, on-prem, and the cloud are all in scope. We have identified a target for our spear phishing. Can you show Mega Big Tech how their defenses may not be good enough? Now let me define some of our terms. We have this red team engagement, and a lot of people get confused between these two things. When I was first getting into the field and I wanted to be a pen tester, I assumed pen testing and red teaming are the same thing, but they are not. So a pen test is a very much time-specific engagement. A pen test is usually focused on one application, one network, whatever it is, very clear scope, very clear rules of engagement, and you may only have 5 days or 10 days to find every vulnerability that's possible. You're not looking at goal execution, you're just looking for a holistic view of the application or the network, and you can be as noisy as you want. The blue team knows that you're in the network. They're generally not trying to stop you. They'll even take down different firewalls so you have better access, because once again, it's time limited. They don't want you to waste your time and really their money trying to break through defenses. They just want you to find every vulnerability that you can. A red team engagement, on the other hand, is much more long-term. So a red team engagement can be a month, 3 months, 6 months, even a year long, where you emulate an APT or an advanced persistent threat or a nation state actor. And when you do a red team engagement, usually it's not focused on finding a bunch of vulnerabilities, but rather goal execution. So for example, let's say we're doing a red team engagement on a bank. The goal execution might be, can you make a fraudulent transaction or wire transfer? That's the goal that you need to get to. How you do it, they don't care. It's usually a mix of on-site social engineering with physical pen testing, a mix of web apps, externals, internals, gaining access, phishing, pretext calling, making phone calls, all of that stuff, all to get to goal execution. And so this scenario right here is emulating a social engineering for a red team engagement, which is why all these things are in scope. A typical pen test, not all of this is in scope, but now in a red team engagement, all of this is in scope, and social engineering is in scope. So I hope that helps define some terms for those of you who might be new to the field, new to pen testing, new to red teaming, to understand the difference between pen testing and red teaming. All right, so here are our learning outcomes. So we're going to set up and configure an Evilginx phishing server. We're going to capture login creds using it. We're going to bypass MFA, perform token abuse, a bunch of crazy fun stuff. We'll go ahead and work through this together. I promise I'll take it slow, and I'll try to explain the things that might be brand new to you for those of you who are new to the cloud. Let me go ahead and ban someone from Twitch who is trying to spam random stuff. All right, real world context. Evilginx, which you may have heard of it, is a popular and modern phishing framework. Developments of this framework has helped improve the detection capability and overall robustness of leading cloud platforms and SaaS providers who look to defend against this modern phishing tradecraft. MFA is often deployed, but this lab will show how even the smallest enablement gap can allow threat actors to gain a foothold in an environment. Container apps are a popular Azure service, and we will examine how we can use container app features to our advantage. The big thing I want to focus on, which I think makes this really unique, is setting up full real-world phishing infrastructure. So we'll go through this, and then we'll go into Evilginx. That's where we're going to spend most of our time. But here is our recon, which is something you do in a red team engagement. So we did recon. We found this Adrian Taylor, a mega big tech employee who works as an Azure developer. And we also found that this is a valid email address. So we have an employee and we have a valid email, which of course is going to lead to phishing. Let's scroll down. As social engineering and phishing is in scope, as we already know that the target is using cloud, we can think to use a man-in-the-middle attack framework such as Evilginx, and we'll even open that and read through it, to phish cloud platform login creds. With Evilginx, a target can be sent a link to a phishing page. It looks exactly like the legitimate site. You guys are going to see this. It's crazy. They are wanting to access Google or Microsoft, etc., and so they entered their credentials. Evilginx is a reverse proxy. That's the kind of the keyword here. A reverse proxy that allows us to intercept communication between a user and legitimate websites, stealthily capturing login creds and even bypassing 2FA. In a successful attack, the target user gets logged in, and hey, so do we. So you can kind of see, we'll walk through this a little bit. Here is us, our attacker. We're in red here, right? We're going to send a phishing link with a legitimate pretext, like, hey, you need to fill this out right now. Our target clicks on the link and enters credentials into the phishing website, right? The phishing server authenticates with a legitimate service and prevents an MFA challenge to the user. So like legit MFA challenge from Microsoft or Google or whatever it is. And then we jump back over to the target completes the MFA challenge. So they put in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever the MFA code is. The phishing server forwards the MFA response and receives the authentication token. The threat actor, that's us, we can collect the authentication token from the phishing server, which because we have the token, we also have the MFA authentication. And then finally, the threat actor imports the captured cookie, and you can just do that with a browser tool. I don't actually have it on here, but cookie editor. I'll show you that later. and we can do that to authenticate to the legitimate service and access the account, and therefore bypassing MFA and other restrictions that might be in place. Makes sense? I know it's a little bit confusing looking at this. It makes a lot more sense when we actually walk through all of this. So our Evilginx server needs to be accessible over the internet, and for this we can stand up a VM from any cloud provider. If the target uses Azure, which this target does, for example, then this cloud platform address space is likely to be allow listed, which is important, right? So if it's an Azure target and you can spin up an Azure VM, you're using a list of IPs that belong to Azure, so there's a better chance that you'll be allow listed and be able to get through. So it makes sense to set up an Azure virtual machine. In that case, we use a Ubuntu Linux EC2 instance. I'm going to show you how to use Kali. All right, let me show you some of the Azure stuff. So here is my personal Azure account, just what I use for sandboxes. I'm not going to show you how to set up an Azure account. It's like super easy to get an Azure account set up. And when you set it up, I believe you get $200 of just like free credit to use. But one thing I do want to show you is when you set up your Azure account, kind of the scary thing about doing stuff in the cloud is waking up one day to hundreds of charges on your cloud account. So I always encourage people, whether it's Azure, AWS, GCP, one of the first things that you should do is set up a budget and cost alert. So let me just show you this. If we go to cost alerts right here, I'm going to go over to my budget, and you can see I set up a budget here once it loads. All right, now to do this yourself, you just click add and you add the budget. You can see I have a budget here. I have it set for every single month. I don't want to go over $15. You can see I've spent about $7 this month so far. What will happen is when I hit about 90% of my budget, it will email spam me saying, yo, Tyler, you're going to spend too much money in the cloud. Stop, stop, stop. So if you're going to do this and follow along in the cloud and have sandbox accounts, which I recommend, I have sandbox accounts for Azure and AWS. I don't quite have one for GCP yet, but I have sandbox accounts for all of this, and I don't pay more than a few dollars a month. And I have this set up just in case I leave something on, I leave a service on, so it notifies me before I lose a bunch of money to the cloud. So I just encourage you, as you set this up, make sure you set up a budget. Kind of like real world, right? Always set up a budget. Make sure I'm not missing anything in chat. I don't think I am, as long as it's showing me everything, at least on the LinkedIn side of things. All right. Now, what you're going to do if you want to follow along is you need to create a virtual machine in the cloud so it has a public IP. Now, for those of you who are used to try hack me or hack the box, this part's probably a little bit confusing because when you do try hack me or hack the box, you connect to their VPN and it's a private IP, like a 10 dot whatever. And when you attack the machines, you're able to do reverse shells and everything because you're both on the same network. You both have private IP addresses. But in the real world, if you're targeting a real victim, a real organization, you need to have a public IP out in the internet. So when you hook into them, they can communicate back to their server. They can't communicate to your 192.168 private IP address because of networking. You need a public IP address. And here is how we can do it. If we go to virtual machines right here, you can see I have one right here. I'm not going to go through the full process, but I'll show you kind of how to get this started. If you click virtual machines, we'll just do create. We'll do an Azure virtual machine. And all of this, you can just leave it as default. It should auto select whatever resource group that you need. And I just call it like Kali C2 for a command and control server. Our region, US East 2 is fine. Whatever region it selects for you is fine. All of this is good. Security type, you want to set to standard if you want to do Kali. And if you want to do Kali, if you just click image, you can actually scroll through and Kali is one of the official images. And you'll go through this full process. Once again, I'm not going to do this for you, but there's a lot of resources that show you how to do it. But honestly, you can just stumble your way through it. The biggest thing is you want to make sure you have some type of access to it. You can set up SSH with a key pair, or you can do password authentication. Generally not the best idea to do password authentication, but if it's just a sandbox VM that you use like very rarely, only when you launch it and then you close it down, it's not that big of a deal if you do password authentication, but it's best practice to use actual keys. But you can do that, and then you also just want to set up the network group so it allows SSH access. When you set this up right now, it will automatically allow SSH, and then you can allow whatever ports you want once you get into it with the firewall built into Azure. But that's the first step that you need to do, is set up a virtual machine. I already did that, so we'll go to my virtual machine. Here is my virtual machine that I use for all of these scenarios, and we will just click start on it. It'll take just a second. In the meantime, we can get our terminal pulled up And I will change this over to, we'll just do Kali C2 is what we'll call it. And we'll open a new tab and we'll call this one, actually we'll call this Evilginx 2. We'll log into SSH on both of these, and it looks like our public IP is here. So I'm gonna grab my public IP and we'll SSH as Tyler at my public IP. And I am logged in there, and SSH is Tyler at my public IP. And we are logged in there. Now, a little bit confusing because it looks like I'm still in my Kali instance, but right now I'm actually logged into my C2 server at this public IP address. So this is out on the internet. You could actually hit it right now if I opened a web server, and you'll be able to hit it later on. You can even check out my lure that I'm gonna make. You can go to it yourself and see what it looks like. Would encourage you not to submit credentials to it because you're going to expose your credentials to everybody watching this video. So probably not a good idea to actually allow me to phish you live on stream, but you'll see how all this works with my public IP address here. All right, let's jump back to our lab guide, and this walks us through how we can do all of this. So after we set up our virtual machine, which we just did, you can use Ubuntu, I used Kali. We need to go ahead and git clone the Evilginx 2, which is also good to read through some of the documentation as we do this. I'm just gonna make a directory, we'll call this YouTube. I'll switch over to it and we will go ahead and git clone that. And while we clone that, let's read a little bit about Evilginx 2. So Evilginx is, oh, this is 3.0. Let me find their wiki. Here we go. I don't really need the quick start guide. I want to look at the docs to show you a few different things. If we go over to guides here, here are some of the things we're going to go through. You don't have to worry about the config stuff right here. It automatically creates it for you. But fishlets, we're going to talk a lot about this. So I want to slow down and go through each one of these, and then I'll show it to you in action. So fishlets, these are small config files used to configure Evilginx for targeting specific websites. So there's actually a bunch of different fishlets that you can download that target major providers. One is one that targets like your basic O365 login portal, which is the fishlet we are going to use. But it shows how to manage fishlets. You can see we can do a LinkedIn one, so it clones a LinkedIn, and it has that reverse proxy. So the user doesn't really notice much. It authenticates them to LinkedIn, but as they authenticate, we get all their credentials, we get their token. You can redirect unauthorized requests so that if a scanner tries to hit your C2 server, it's actually amazing what it does. I'll show this to you. When a scanner tries to hit it, it actually redirects them by default to Rickrolling on YouTube. So they get Rickrolled if they try to go to it. It talks about how to create templates and all this good stuff. This is kind of outside of scope of what we are going to do, but I just want you to understand fishlets are small templates that kind of serve as these pages, these landing pages for our victim to land on, and then it emulates these real world login portals. Lures are pre-generated phishing links. So as we create these templates, we will set up lures, and it will give us this IP here with this unique identifier right here. And then when we send our victim to this lure, that is what loads it. Now, if our victim just goes to this URL right here, they will get rickrolled. But if they go to this full URL, it will allow them to authenticate, and it will give them to our page, and it will set up the lure for them. We can pause these lures, we can unpause, we can change the host name, we can set redirectors, user agent filters. I mean, a lot of things we can do, but those things, once again, just for this simple demonstration, are outside of the scope of this. Redirectors I'm not going to talk about because we're not going to use those, but they act as landing pages to your phishing sites. You can kind of look at that yourself. Also zoom in a little bit. Sessions are cool. So once we get a valid user to log in our field, it will set up a session for them. It kind of reminds me of Metasploit a little bit when you look at your sessions. And when you look at each session, you can do session, specify the name, and it will go ahead and give you the full cookies from the session. Then you can load the cookies in. I was just telling you using like cookie editor. For Firefox, you load the cookies in, and then you have access to the website. And if they logged in with MFA, you also have their token for MFA. So you don't have to do their MFA, you capture their MFA, and you can authenticate as them to the website. Proxy, we're not going to talk a whole lot about proxy because we're not going to play around with proxies. I'll let you do that yourself if you want. Blacklist is something that's going to come in mind. that I've already talked about a little bit. So unauthorized requests are requests made to the URL not belonging to any of the setup lure. So made to just the base URL, not a lure that is set up with that unique identifier on the end. It will be blacklisted so that scanners and things can't pick up your malicious website. And if you're targeting an organization for a red team engagement, you don't want the blue team to be able to go to your website. Instead, by default, you can change it to anything else, but by default, it redirects them to be rickrolling, which I just think is amazing. And if it matches the lure URL, but if we disabled or hid the lure URL, and there's different modes, right? So we can do blacklist all is the command. We can blacklist every single request. And this is useful if we want to stop all the scanning stuff. So one thing you do in a red team engagement is you set up your infrastructure, you blacklist everything for a few weeks or a month so that when scanners hit your website, they don't note it as malicious, and then you don't get pulled away right away by that Chrome warning saying, hey, this website might be malicious. We can do unauth. That means, hey, if there's not a valid URL, then go ahead and rickroll them. No add, block every request, but don't add the IP to the blacklist. And then finally, off, block unauthorized requests, but ignore blocking of IPs already stored in the blacklist, which is probably what we'll do since we're just setting up the lab. The blacklist file, commands that we can use, we'll get hands-on with all of this, but I'm talking a lot. I need a drink of water. All right, let's keep on going. We have Evilginx here. Now, if you want to get the binary, we can just use go. So cd Evilginx, if you don't have go installed, I believe it's sudo apt install go. Is it Golang like that, I think? Okay, nope, it's not a dash. There we go. I already have it installed, but we'll do go, yeah, go build is what it is. Should take just a second, and we should have our Evilginx binary. And ls, we have Evilginx too. Now, I'm going to pivot away from this because I've already set up my domain and stuff in Evilginx 2 on this over here. When I was doing it before, I'm not going to go through all that work again, but I will show you everything that I did, including like all the domain bind, DNS disclosure stuff, all that fun stuff. But that's the first step, right? Go ahead and build Evilginx so you have it. After running it, we confirm it's working. See that we need to specify the path to a directory, which for me, I didn't have to. I just ran Evilginx and automatically picked up the fishlet. So I can try that actually on this one. This is the one I just created. If I do Evilginx 2, you can see it gives us the example fishlet right here. That's one that's always there. The status is disabled. The visibility is hidden. And we are set up right here. That's everything it's showing you at that point in the course. Did my VM just really freeze? Hold up. Amazing. What a great time to freeze. All right, y'all, give me just a second. Look and talk amongst yourselves. I apparently need to restart my VM. And of course, it doesn't ever freeze when it's just like me looking at my computer, but when I'm live streaming, the VM is going to freeze. Give me just a second, won't take long. Boot up Kali again. The downside, and I really just need to add more RAM, guys. I don't know if you believe this or not. This computer I'm running things on only has 16 gigs of RAM, and I'm running my VM. I'm live streaming via OBS to 3 different platforms, and I'm monitoring all the platforms. So eventually my computer just kind of, you know, gives up is what happens. We'll see. Almost back in. All right, let me log in. View full screen. All right, SSH is Tyler again. And I just want to open up another one as well. SSH is Tyler, that. All right, we'll call this, whoops, terminal, and this one, Evilginx 2. All right, there we go. Oh, I guess I need to get logged back into Pwned Labs as well. Give me just a second while I authenticate to that. I'll get the lab pulled back up. All right, we're back in the business. Let me jump back down to where we were at. All right, that's our fishlets. Now, here's the other part that I know is confusing for those of you who are working through this. We need to configure a domain to use for our phishing campaign, right? You can register a domain if needed, which we are going to, which I did myself. I made a domain that looks quite legit and what you would use for a phishing campaign for only like $2. And I have a special trick I'm going to share with all of you how you can get super cheap domains that are effective for phishing campaigns. We also write Evilginx to the public IP, blah, 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 blah. So first step is figuring out a domain. Now, there's a bunch of different services for this. I like Namecheap myself. And I'll go over to my dashboard and let me log into this real quick. And do my 2FA because I'm smart. Let me get my 2FA through. All right. So if we go over to my domain list, here is my domain, azure-portal.cam. Now, the real one is portal.azure.com. My trick is this .cam TLDR, top level domain. .cam is always super cheap. It's like $2 to get a .cam for any like major thing, even with Azure in the name, whereas the .com equivalent would be sometimes hundreds of dollars. Now, the cool thing about the human mind is when you see this really quickly up here, so if this said namecheap.cam, if it's set up there and you were just redirected to it, your mind just corrects this and you automatically see .cam and you just like correct it to .com. So unless the user is really observant, they're not even going to notice it's a .cam domain. And the way that you can find our next domain is, let's imagine if we go to, I don't know if it's even a website, megabigtech.com. Okay, I think there is as, how about this? Is this a website? No. All right. Well, let's pretend like there is ftp.megabigtech.com, right? And let's pretend like that is a website and that has a login and a password on there. If we were going to target megabigtech.com, what I would do is look for megabigtech.cam so that I can make myself look tricky. Look, I can get megabigtech.cam right now for only $2 for the entire year. And then we could do ftp.megabigtech.cam. And if they use ftp.megabigtech.com, we got them. The other nice thing is if we were targeting megabigtech.com, which we are, and let's say we're sending phishing emails, well, you want your send email to look legit. So you would buy megabigtech.cam, and then with either Namecheap or G Suite, you can set up another workplace. I'm not going to show you all of that. I told you I'm not going to show you everything, right? I don't want to give away too much power to those of you who might use this for harm, but you can figure this out on your own if you're an actual pen tester. But you can purchase one of these domains. You can set up email with it like within 5 to 10 minutes, and then you can have like IT support at megabigtech.cam. This obviously isn't going to work. Well, okay, well, you can buy that. But you could send an email from IT support at megabigtech.cam, or we could send an email from Edrian himself. Let's say if we go up to our Edrian user here, Edrian.taylor@megabigtech.com. Well, if we bought megabigtech.cam, we can send emails as Edrian.taylor@megabigtech.cam to maybe his people who are underneath them, employees at the organization. It looks like it's coming from Adrian, and if they don't have good email systems in place, they're not going to notice a difference, and we are going to go ahead and compromise them. It's going to be quite tricky. So with this specific scenario, though, we know that we are cloning or trying to clone an Azure login page, which the real one I believe is portal.azure.com, right? Portal.azure.com is the real one. So in the lab, they use aka-portal.azure.com. You can see that I used, if I go back to my account, dashboard, and go over to domain list, is azure-portal.cam. So once again, unless the user is observant, that might just trick them and they're not going to realize what they're going to. But we could try something else, right? So if we wanted to do, I don't know, Mega Big Tech Azure.cam. Sometimes the Azure domains won't allow us to register it. Oh no, it does. Look at that. So we can get megabigtech-azure.cam for, once again, $298 a year. If we change it to .com, let's see the price difference. I mean, not big price, only $10 a year. So in that case, that's not that big of a deal. But I've noticed some domains where the .com is literally hundreds of dollars and the .cam is $3. And once again, human mind doesn't notice a difference as you register your phishing domains. But let me jump back to my dashboard. We'll go to my domain list. Here is my Azure portal. We'll go ahead and manage it so I can show you some of the DNS records as we dive into this. But that's the next step. You can register an account at Namecheap and purchase a phishing domain for like $2 or less to make it a little more realistic. We need to provide Evilginx with the public IP address of the VM or any redirector you have configured. Creating offensive infrastructure involving redirectors is outside the scope of this lab, blah, blah. We can reserve a public IP on our VM instance, which just means, hey, always keep this public IP. I think Azure might actually do that by default when you spin up a VM. I might be wrong. But I have mine that does that by default. So the way we do that is we just need to configure it. So I'm going to jump over to this. I'm going to go to the one I already set up before. But I'll still show you the commands. I'm just going to run Evilginx. There we go. So on this page, all you're going to do is this command, config IPv4 external, but you would do whatever your IP is of your Azure, which I realized I got logged out of Azure when my VM crashed. So let me just log in and make sure I don't phish myself. We'll go to a real Azure portal, not portal.azure.cam, right? All right, we'll go to my virtual machines. We'll go to Kali. And there's our IP, our public IP address. So that's what you're going to do there. You do config external public IP. I'm not going to do it because I already did it, but you would do that and hit enter to config our IPv4 for that. And then we want to config our domain, right? So this would be config domain and whatever domain you registered. Mine is azure-portal.cam. So azure-portal.cam. And that's all you do for that step. So whatever domain you registered, config domain, and then that portal. All right. We can use many of the fishes that are available online to confirm working with Evilginx 3, which is what we're going to do. Now, I've never done this Evilginx mastery course, but I think that shows how to build your own fishlets, as well as there are some things that just aren't public that make this a lot more effective in real red team engagements. But the Evilginx fishlet below, named O365 MFA, is designed to target Microsoft Office 365 services with a focus on bypassing MFA. It configures Evilginx to intercept traffic from multiple Microsoft domains, including login portals for Microsoft Online, Office, Outlook, and Live.com. The fishlet captures authentication tokens and credentials by mimicking these websites and logging post data for usernames and passwords. Additionally, it manipulates certain form submissions to force settings that facilitate phishing, like ensuring the Remember MFA setting is turned on, allowing access to be maintained even after the initial compromise. So here's what it looks like. And you can see there's a few subdomains we need. We need login, www, device.login, Outlook, and login. That will come up handy when we look at our DNS records. But what we need to do is just grab this. So I'm going to copy this, go over to Evilginx 2. This is my YouTube one? Okay, let me go to the YouTube one. You just need to go to the fishlet category, and here's our fishlet, and we can go ahead and wget that. And that will automatically add it. Now, if I launch Evilginx 2 here, you can see that we now have the O365 MFA fishlet enabled. And we just need to make it visible, which I'll show you that. A few phishing subdomains are specified in the fishlet, which I just showed you up there. And we can go ahead and create a host records for them in the DNS management section of our domain. Your domain provider may look different. So In Namecheap, if you're following along in Namecheap, the way that we do this, let me go all the way back to my dashboard. All right. From our dashboard, we click Domain List. From here, we click Manage on the domain. We're going to go to Advanced DNS, and I'll show you. I'll keep this pulled up for those of you who might be following along on all of the records that you need. So we need an A record that just points directly to our public IP. We need an A record for CDN that points to our public IP. These are all from that fishlet, right? Device.login, login, Outlook, www. You can ignore this text record down here. I screwed up my TLS certificate at first, and I was trying to fix it, but I got it to work. But these are the domain records you need. So these A records, these hosts, all pointing to your public IP. Keep that pulled up just for a second. If you're following along, you can grab a screenshot of that. Otherwise, if you're watching after the fact on YouTube, you can literally just pause the video and make sure all yours are typed in. All right. Jump back to this. In the Evilginx console, we can configure the host name that should be used with the fishlet. In our case, we can continue to use aka portal azure.com. Our case is azure-portal.cam. Enter the commands below to set the host name and enable the old 365 MFA fishlet and hide the example fishlet. I'm not going to show you this because you literally can just copy and paste these commands. It's fishlets, host name, old 365 MFA. Here's going to be your domain that you register with Namecheap or whatever provider you used. You're going to then enable the domain and you're going to hide the example fishlet. Remember, the example fishlet is just a default one. We don't need it. We just want to hide it. And we're just concerned about the old 365 MFA fishlet. All right. Now, if I jump over to this, you can see I have it right here. Mine is disabled right now, but it's visible, right? Old 365 MFA disabled, but currently visible. I need to actually enable mine. So I'm going to do fishlets, enable O365 MFA. If I knew how to spell, that would be a good starting point. Enable O365 MFA. Oh, do I not? Which one did I launch here? Oh, maybe I still need to. It looks like it didn't save my previous stuff. Maybe. Is Evilginx already listening? Hold up. No, it's just that one. All right, let me see if I broke something on my end. I don't think I did. This just couldn't start because I'm already listening on the other one. We're going to exit this one, and I guess I will show you all the steps. Oh, I didn't mean to get out that way. I will show you all the steps. So I'm going to launch Evilginx 2. All right, and I thought it would save all of my domains, but I guess not. So let me actually back up and I'll show you those things. Once we log in here, we are going to do this. So I'm going to do my external IP. Config external. Let me grab my IP from right here, jump back over to this, and drop the information in there. So we have our external IP set. And now we go ahead and config our domain. You can see that config domain and then our domain, which is azure-portal.cam. Config domain. All right, we have that set up. And scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. I should be able to enable my O365 MFA one now. Fishlet. Enable O365 MFA. I knew it would be one of those. Gosh, guys, I cannot spell. I cannot spell fishlets. I don't know why it's so hard for me to spell that word, but it's very hard. Okay. Oh, maybe I should set the host name. All right, let's do that. Fishlets host name azure-portal.cam. Frick, what am I doing? Oh, okay. Bet. I got you. Fishlets, hostname, O365 MFA, Azure portal.cam. Boom. And now we'll do fishlets. It's in there. We'll do fishlets, enable O365 MFA. Boom. Beautiful. So we enabled it. It set up all 5 TLS certificates, and it successfully set them all up. Good to go. Scroll through here. Now we're going to create a lure. So remember, the lure was like the unique phishing link for our victim, our target user to click. In this scenario, it's Adrian, but you can even go to, for those of you watching the live stream, I'll post the lure in the chat and you should be able to access it. So let's go ahead and do that. Lures, create, and then just from whatever fish that we are. So lures, create, O365 MFA. If we go to lures, so I already have one right here, but we'll do, I think it's lures show one or lures get URL. All right. Lures get URL 1 and blacklist I'm going to turn off. All right. If you guys want, you should be able to access this. I'll drop it in the chat if you just want to see what it looks like. Once again, do not enter in your credentials because it will show up on the screen. It would be a very bad idea. All right, so I see people doing it. Some of these are bots. Like this is what you'll notice because we have this public IP exposed. A bunch of bots are trying to hit this. Some of them will be people, but you can see our LinkedIn bot doesn't work. Like there's a LinkedIn bot trying to hit it. Other people trying to hit it. And if we pull it up, actually, I'm going to pull it in a new tab, new private window. Sometimes it takes a little bit as it's initially getting set up, but it should eventually bring us to the login screen. But I mean, look at this. It'd be very hard for our user to realize they're at a malicious website right now. Everything looks totally legit. We have login.azure-portal.cam. That's the giveaway. The .cam, right? That is the giveaway. But other than that, how do you tell you're at an invalid website, right? Now, if we jump over to this, I see a lot of people are hitting this. I don't know which one of these are. Oh, look at that. So someone submitted a beautiful, beautiful account right here. test@test.com. Password, thank you for your great content. Hey, thank you for the kind words, my friend. But once again, just showing this is how it works. If you submit your username and your password, it will show up on my screen, right? So feel free to like send messages there. Just please do not submit your real username and your real password. I don't actually want to phish you. But okay. That's our lure. For requests to our Evilginx server that don't contain the lure path, we can assume they are scanners or blue team. So here's the other thing I want you guys to do. If we go up to my lure right here. Now, just go to this URL. It should. Oh, maybe it's because my blacklist is off. Oh, I turned the blacklist off. If the blacklist was still on, it would rickroll you, but I'll leave the blacklist off for now. All right, let's jump back over to this. Blah, blah, and then redirect these to a different URL. The default URL is below. Evilginx enables and updates a block list by default. The IP address associated with any requests that don't contain a valid lure URL will automatically be added to the block list. I turned that off, so you won't automatically be added to the block list. Yo, what up, Casually Joseph? Good to have you here, my friend. As we're going through this lab, we can simply disable the block list, which I did. Blacklist off. Visiting our phishing site, we see the Microsoft Online sign-in page. Crazy. Looks totally legit. Like, blows me away every time. Because it is legit, right? It's a reverse proxy. You're actually authenticating to Microsoft, but you're sending me your credentials when you do so. Amazing. Now, I know Adrian Taylor, we're going to send him an email There's a script that runs on the back end, but I also know his password. I just want to show you what this looks like. If we go to, like, from the victim user, we can see his password is I need a holiday at Bahamas. So let's log in as Adrian Taylor at megabigtech.com. Right, and we will go ahead. Well, I can use any password. Super secure password. We'll click sign in. All right. Right, there it is. Username Adrian Taylor at megabigtech.com and password please subscribe on YouTube. But if we used a valid account there, it would actually authenticate you to Microsoft 0365. You wouldn't see anything. You would be there. Oh, Dank Rainer said my VPN got rickrolled, so at least that's working. Okay, beautiful. You must be on the block list, so you got rickrolled. Amazing. But look at this. I mean, guys, it just looks so realistic. It blows me away how effective this phishing is through Evilginx. But we are going to send an email now over to Adrian Taylor. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen just for a moment while I authenticate to my Sandbox email account now. Give me just a second. No, I want to use a different account. hacksmarter.demo. Give me just a moment, y'all. And of course, I have 2FA enabled. Almost there, y'all. All right. We can send an email from my HackSmarter demo account now to adrian.taylor@megabigtech.com. All right. And now here's where ChatGPT can come in handy, right? Let's go. I'm going to stop sharing one more time just while I authenticate to ChatGPT. Oh, what's my t-shirt say? It says Race Against Cancer, 605 Boxing. It's my boxing gym. We ran a 5K. All right. So on ChatGPT, we can say, I am working in IT support. Whoops. Please craft an email to an employee named Adrian that his credentials have expired and he needs to log in to set a new password. We need to make this urgent because he's going to lose access to his Azure account. Right? Beautiful. Thank you, ChatGPT, for the phishing email. I appreciate it. All right. We'll just use ChatGPT. All right. Dear Adrian, I hope this message finds you well. This is an urgent notification regarding your account credentials. We have identified that your current credentials have expired, and as a result, you will soon lose access to your Azure account. To ensure continuous access and avoid any disruption to your work, please follow the instructions below to set a new password immediately. Log into your account, log in using the following link. Now, I think on the back end, like obviously there's not a real person opening these emails. It's a headless browser, and I think it's just going based off the text in the email. So it would be best to disguise it as like an Azure URL, just like ChatGPT gave us, but we're going to paste in our full link here. Right here. Like that. And I will hyperlink it though. Bro. Where's the hyperlink at? There we go. Follow the prompts to reset your password and ensure your new password meets the required security criteria. This action is required to be completed within the next 24 hours to prevent any loss of access to your account. If you encounter any issues during this process or need further assistance, please do not hesitate to reach out to our IT support team at... Now, let's imagine I showed you megabigtech.cam is available. In a real red team or phishing engagement, I would have bought that domain. So you can reach out to us at IT support at megabigtech.com. tech.cam, or call us directly at, and then we can, do a phone number here. All right. I think that email looks legit, y'all. We'll go ahead and send this email over to him. Make sure everything looks good to me. I will click send. We will go to this. We have an unauthorized request. What is someone trying to do? We'll give it a second. We'll see if it comes through. Let's go back to this real quick. We'll see how they did it in the lab. Emails from IT that sound official demand compliance can be successful, which they really can be, and that's exactly what I did. Adrian, blah, blah, blah. Gars, Mega Big Tech IT. After sending the email, we find that Adrian clicked on the link and entered his username and password, and possibly also the MFA token if this is configured. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Come on, Adrian. I believe in you. I don't think I broke it by doing it myself already with Adrian's account. You can see all these accounts that people... Oh, here's one that I captured before. You can see all these different sessions that I was playing with in the past. And a bunch of you people logging into the account. And we actually do have a captured token right here, which a captured token means they actually authenticated, right? And we have their MFA credentials. And it may be because I already went through this process once with Adrian. It's not gonna, like the headless script on the other end isn't gonna actually click it. I can show you what this looks like. If we do, I think it's sessions show. Let me check. Oh, just sessions and then the session name. So you can see with Adrian, we have Adrian Taylor at megabigtech.com. We have his password. His tokens were captured. We have his user agent. We have his create time. We also have his cookies, right? And we successfully pwned Adrian. And if we were doing this in a real phishing campaign, y'all, this is actually exactly how you would do it. Now, there's a few different things you would need to do to bypass email filtering, because like any enterprise email filtering system is going to probably catch first your fake email that you're sending it from, and hopefully catch your fake domain. There's a lot of things they check, like one is domain age. So when you're doing a red team engagement, I would register this domain, a month or even longer ahead of time, so it ages out. Sometimes you even have to set up a real website on the domain that looks legit, so it gets categorized correctly in DNS and domain categorization, and that'll help you bypass some of those filtering. But once again, way beyond scope of this, but in a real red team engagement, those are some of the things that you would need to do. The other thing is, although this used to work, y'all, this used to work to fully bypass MFA, Microsoft got smart and it doesn't actually work on Microsoft. Now I'm going to show you some different things that we can do to do some bypass MFA that's misconfigured. But the way you would do this, notice this, it explains it right here. Microsoft has advanced detection capabilities because this was being actively exploited, and the free community version is easily detected. What Microsoft does in this scenario is to automatically trigger a re-authentication for the user if they detect that a login seems malicious, thereby invalidating the existing token and the provided MFA code. As the token is automatically invalidated, we are prompted for an MFA code even though we know the user's username and password. Other sites may have less detection capabilities, but here's the thing. If you do get the pro version of Evilginx, which is not an advertisement for that, I don't even have the pro version myself, because a lot of the things you need to do, you can manually create fishlets and evade this, but I'm not going to show you. Once again, I don't want to give you too much evil superpowers, but the pro version has more advanced evasion capabilities that would allow it to go ahead and get MFA without being detected, without looking as suspicious. But it's just like AV evasion, right? I get a lot of this on YouTube, which drives me freaking insane. So if this is you, let me just yell at you for a second. I have made like 3 or 4 videos like, hey, here is a reverse shell that bypasses Windows Defender. And like 6 months or a year later, the comments are like, yo, Tyler lied to us. Defender caught me. Well, no freaking crap. Like the moment I disclose to all of you, hey, here's a bypass to Windows Defender, Windows Defender is going to catch you. Your Windows machine, unless you disable it, has automatic submissions to the cloud. As you are doing stuff, it is detecting behavior, it's submitting it to the cloud, kind of like Virus Total, and it's only a matter of time until Microsoft Defender picks up on my bypasses, and then they are caught. Now, I have bypasses I haven't shared with you that I keep private because I know if I share them, they will go ahead and get burned and they will no longer work. So I just want to say that if you're looking at my AV bypassing videos and you're like, Tyler, this doesn't work, it's because you're trying it 6 months after I released it. AV evasion is a cat and mouse game. As soon as that works, the AV vendors are on top of that and it will get detected if you are using it regularly, and if you're like me and make a whole YouTube video about it. Same with this. Evilginx was being used by real threat actors to bypass MFA, and Microsoft, thankfully, I say this thankfully because I don't like threat actors, but Microsoft thankfully was able to detect that and says, hey, even if you use that token, we can detect that this might be malicious, and we're going to require you to re-authenticate to Azure, and you're not going to be able to bypass MFA using this current method anymore, which is also one of the reasons I felt comfortable making a YouTube video on this. If this truly fully bypassed MFA without needing to do anything else, I'd be a little more concerned about making a YouTube video showing everybody how to do this. Still, this is powerful stuff and also shows you need MFA enabled. If you are at an organization and your organization still doesn't require MFA, bro, take this video, bring it to the CIO's office and say, require MFA. Otherwise, threat actors are going to do this exact thing. And if you don't have MFA, they don't need the pro version of Evilginx. They're just going to absolutely pwn you with your username and password and get access to your environment. And here's the other crazy thing, y'all. We have his username and password, right? We know his password is I need a holiday at Bahamas. So we can actually try to log in here. Let me go to, I'll go to my private window. Adrian, I don't even remember the dude's name. Whoops. And then we grab his password. I need a holiday at the Bahamas. Whoops. Gosh, click the right thing, Tyler. Right, we are stopped because of MFA. But here's the thing. In a real red team engagement, megabigtech.com, we would perform some pretty massive enumeration of megabigtech.com, all of the infrastructure, every login portal that they have. And here's the thing. Companies do not consistently enforce MFA on every single login portal. Sometimes you can get access to some pretty sensitive information where they have MFA maybe enforced on login.microsoftonline.com, but it's not enforced on a file sharing website, or it's not enforced on an FTP server, somewhere else where it's publicly exposed. And like most human beings, Adrian.Taylor, like many, if not all of the employees at your workplace, practice password reuse. This sure does not look like a randomly generated password from a password manager to me. So if he's using I need a holiday at Bahamas as his password, I guarantee you Adrian is using this password at multiple places around the environment. So even though we're stopped by MFA here, I guarantee you we could password spray this beast across different services and get access to the environment. So if you enforce MFA, make sure you enforce MFA consistently across the entire environment on the red team side of things. Anyone else trying to log into us? A few people. All right, let me go ahead and close down our infrastructure right here. And there we go. That is how we set up MFA, or not how we set up MFA. That is how we register a new malicious domain with Namecheap. We set up a public VM in Azure, and we were able to use our public VM. We installed Evilginx 2. We installed an old 365 Fishlet. We set up an entire lure, a landing page, and we were able to successfully target Adrian. And once again, if we configure this slightly more differently, we would have been able to steal his authentication token properly, bypass MFA, and have access to it. But even without that, just doing the standard phishing technique, we now have his password, and we could abuse password reuse all across the megabigtech.com environment. And I guarantee you we could pivot deep into their infrastructure with his account, especially considering he's an Azure developer. So if we get access to other accounts, he likely has additional privileges that might be helpful in this scenario. So hey y'all, I hope you found this helpful. There's some more things I'm going to show you, but this was the main like phishing component of the video. And actually on YouTube, I'm going to break these videos up. This will be the end of this video. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you're watching the video on setting up phishing, this is the end. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace. All right, y'all. Now I'm here with y'all. I'm going to get a drink of water again. Let me ask you guys, does anyone have any questions? Anything you want me to explain a little bit? Let me see if I can get LinkedIn pulled up on my phone to make sure I'm not missing chat real quick. Here we go. All right, don't think I'm missing anything in chat. J Money said, question, if anyone used it, is the Hack the Box Academy annual silver subscription worth it? Yes, Hack the Box Academy is amazing. Neffel said, I think you should invest in some more memory. You're right. Do they give you certification? Yeah, so I think if you sign up, Hack the Box Academy pricing is a little bit confusing, but if you sign up, I think for their gold plan, maybe you get at least one voucher for their certifications. If you complete Academy stuff, you get like a certification of completion or something along those lines. But all right, y'all. Here's what I'm going to do. I showed you most of this lab, at least the initial access, but I'm not going to show you the entire lab, at least not in this video. I wanted to give you a taste of just the high level quality stuff that is on Pwned Labs. So I would encourage you, like, there's a lot more that I did not go through. There is using Graph Runner, if you never heard of that. We're going to bypass MFA by logging in on an Android mobile device because I have MFA enabled. But one common mistake that you see is they have it enabled for everything but Android, right? Or but Apple, whatever it is. And we can actually use our browser as an Android user agent, and you bypass MFA that way. And we're going to do some Azure enumeration here, but I don't want to spoil the entire challenge for those of you who want to work through this on your own. I plan on making a separate video where I go through this part of the lab, but for this kind of live stream, I just wanted to show that phishing infrastructure. I know that was a lot to take in, and I think that's more than enough for a video and show some red team stuff. What up, Xerox? No. Paris Gatsby said, do tokens also bypass Azure AD conditional access policies? You know, I'm not entirely sure. I'm actually curious myself. Let me see if I can figure that out. Okay, so look at this. Let's read about the blue team side of it. Blah, blah. So this is exactly what we just did, right? Evilginx 2. So they found 6 that block. If you are doing only user authentication today, it's important to plan to include additional factors such as machine authentication, Intune certificate-based, and Microsoft Cloud Security Conditional Access App Control. So there is some information here on how you can block this attack on the blue team side of things. How much is a fish evolving defenses against Evilginx versus... Oh, that's the name of the YouTube video? I'm not going to actually watch this because it's going to be really buggy if I watch it in my VM, but I do want to pull it up. How much is the fish? Okay, I'm just going to copy your video. Here we go. So if you want to see how to defend against this, there's a good 30-minute talk right here that looks like it would be excellent. And some of the defenses that are in place now to prevent some of these attacks. But once again, it's this back and forth, right? Blue team, red team, blue team, red team. And I'm all for the blue team, right? Like I do pen testing for my day job. I teach ethical hacking content, but I really want to emphasize it's ethical hacking content. I do not support cyber criminals. I don't even want them to be called hackers, right? If you look at the threat landscape today, the vast majority of cyber criminals are just freaking script kiddies who fire off scripts or buy crap or work for some organization. They're not hackers. Hackers are the real deal, and I view hackers as a positive term, right? Hackers are problem solvers, troubleshooters. They can think outside of the box. They can break things, but hackers do it for the greater good. Cyber criminals do it to make money and to rip people off and to scam people. If that's you, don't watch my content. You are a loser, my friend. But I support real hackers who do this stuff for the greater good. Blue team, I love blue team. Blue team is what defends all of us from losing our data. So if you're on blue team, hopefully you saw some ways that you can prevent against this. But the best way to be a good blue teamer is you need to think like a hacker or even like a cyber criminal. You need to see what kind of things do they do, what things I need to make my users aware of so that you can defend against it. And one big thing from the blue team side of things is you saw how I did this. A reverse proxy, it looks exactly like O365 login page. And like, you need to let your organization be aware of this because your know-before phishing campaigns, which I know are helpful. Know-before is a massive organization that sends phishing campaigns, but they're pretty obvious phishing campaigns, at least from my experience. Like it's, hey, your UPS order is missing here. And if you click the link, like it's like, oh, you fell for it. You sometimes need to emulate much more advanced phishing campaigns because if an APT or a real threat actor is targeting your organization, it's not going to be an obvious know before email that comes through. It's going to be something like this. Using a reverse proxy, you're not even going to know that you got scammed. The other thing you need to be aware of is pretext calling or vishing. The reason I use pretext calling is because vishing and phishing sound the same, but this is phone calls. I've actually done this as part of an engagement, but what's crazy about pretext calling is I have other software I'm not going to show you. You can find it yourself, but I can spoof any number. So I did pretext calling for an organization. I would spoof an internal number. I would call people internally. I would pretend like I'm calling on behalf of someone, and I would get them to do what I wanted them to do. And that's what a real threat actor is going to do. They're going to target you both on phishing and pretext calling, and probably a combination of both of those. So if your organization does not have a plan in place where you're actually testing your defenses in that way, you need to. Pen testers can do it. Like I work at Rhino Security Labs, would love to do that for you, but you can go with any reputable pen test company and do a social engineering assessment. A lot of people do internal network, they do web apps, all that's important. Very few organizations do full social engineering, but that's how threat actors are getting into your environment. It's through phishing emails and pretext calling, and you need to have a defense in depth to detect each one of those things and to stop them. And you need to be regularly testing your employees on those areas, not to shame them, but to help train them and just show them here's what's possible. Here's what real threat actors are actually doing. Hey, I got a subscriber, Swagtastic56. Thank you for the subscription over on Twitch. I appreciate it. You are awesome. I should just say, guys, if any of you really appreciate this content, you can support me in a few different ways. I told you before, I don't believe in paywalls, so none of my content is behind a paywall. But on YouTube, you can become a member of YouTube, I think at $5 or $10 a month. You can also do a one-time donation via a super chat over on YouTube. Over on Twitch, you can subscribe, and subscribing also supports my work on the Twitch side of things. On LinkedIn, well, LinkedIn doesn't have anything, so go to YouTube and Twitch if you want to support my work, but you don't have to, right? I don't need it, but it really is much appreciated. On the YouTube side of things, like a lot of YouTube channels have exclusive benefits for members, like you get access to exclusive content. Well, you don't if you become a member of my YouTube page, because I want to make sure my content is available for everyone, regardless of their ability to pay for it. Like people from all countries, I don't think hacking should be a privileged skill. I think it should be available for anyone and everyone, regardless of their financial situation. So I don't hide any of my stuff behind exclusive paywalls. But if you do like my content, I do appreciate that support. But all right, y'all, I will probably be back on tomorrow night doing my typical thing. one thing I really want to do is, well, let's just look at it real quick because I'll hang out a little bit longer on, actually, I think I need to authenticate. Let me authenticate real quick. One second, just getting logged into TryHackMe. All right, so TryHackMe released, I believe it was called a module. If I have my terminology correct, I don't think it was a learning path. I believe it was a module, right? Let me make sure it's not a learning path. No, okay, module and web. What, where's the advanced, isn't there an advanced web attacks module? Am I just blind? I saw them post about this on LinkedIn. I've been wanting to check it out. I could have swore they called it a module. Oh, advanced client-side attacks. This looked really good. And I want to do a series where I go through every single one of these, just live on stream, not prepare ahead of time, but just dive into them blind. But look at this. Through real-world scenarios, you'll gain a detailed understanding of client-side attacks, including cross-site scripting, CSRF, DOM-based vectors, SOP, and CORS vulnerabilities. Right? And I haven't done any of these. So I think starting tomorrow, I box on Thursdays. Like I go beat people up. But when I'm home, if I'm not too tired, I might start a YouTube series where we go through every single one of these detailed as I work my way through it and learn some of these advanced client-side attacks. I think a lot of these rooms are made by my friend Amoeba Man, who is an incredible pen tester, leads a huge pen testing team, and also is a content engineer for TryHackMe. His stuff is always amazing. He's the one who created the Red Team Capstone and like all the AD networks on TryHackMe. I think he created much of these rooms as well. So I've been wanting to check these out. So I think I want to do a series where I go through these advanced client-side attacks on TryHackMe. I think that would be fun. Good stuff. All right, let me answer any questions I might have. Niraj said, how to become a good penetration tester? What is the path? Well, Niraj, I tell you what, if you go to youtube.com and you go to Tyler Ramsby, Ethical Hacker Guide 2024, this cool dude right here, how to become an ethical hacker in 2024. I give you a very detailed guide, 5 minutes long. None of the stupid fluff that other influencers give you. Very straight path that I would say if you follow this path and you grind it out, in 10 months or so, you will be ready for a pen testing role, and you'll have a resume that stands out above other pen testers, because I even walk you through how to get CVEs after getting some of those certifications. So if you want a guide on how to become an ethical hacker from someone actually in the field and not just some influencer who likes to wear an anonymous mask, watch that video. I think you'll find it helpful. And then Niraj said, what is more realistic, Pwned Labs or Hack the Box? They're both realistic. They're different platforms. Hack the Box is focused on on-prem and web app type stuff. Pwned Labs is focused on cloud. But they're both realistic. They're both good. TryHackMe, Hack the Box, Pwned Labs, Portswigger, all amazing platforms. I have active subscriptions to, I have active subscriptions to Pwned Labs, TryHackMe, Hack the Box's main platform, and Hack the Box Academy. And I have Burp Suite Pro, so I have all the Portswigger stuff. So I have active subs to all those things. The Black Zillion asked over on Twitch, how realistic are Hack the Box machines compared to real life scenarios? It all depends on what you mean by your real life scenario. The attack vectors there are quite realistic, but a real life scenario, I'm thinking of a pen test, and the difference between a CTF and a pen test is a CTF, your goal is to generally get remote code execution and to get a shell. You're not going to get that very often on a pen test. Instead, your goal is much more holistic security, finding vulnerabilities, reporting it to the client. I've only had just one time in the past year where on a web app, like a public facing web app, I was able to exploit something and I got a full shell on the client's infrastructure, which was crazy. I mean, that's critical. It's a good thing I found it before a real threat actor found it, but that's not common when you're doing pen testing. It's much more holistic, but still the scenarios that you see in Hack the Box machines are realistic. they're probably closer to what you encounter in an internal pen test. And an internal pen test is usually an assumed breach scenario where the client gives you VPN access to their internal environment. And most, if not all organizations internally, their security sucks. So if they are breached initially, then a lot of the machines are honestly easier than hack the box machines. You can get root on multiple machines, get shells on multiple machines, and kind of pivot your way through the environment. Just for context, on my last internal in a real world enterprise AD environment, I had domain admin in, I think it was 1 day. I had full domain admin in 1 day, gave myself a golden ticket, had persistent access to the environment, and I wasn't even detected. So like, real world environments are quite vulnerable, especially if you do it from an assumed breach scenario, whereas external facing, like an external pen test, web apps, APIs, are less so because they are internet facing and are kind of built up for those kinds of attacks. Hey, the Flame, they did have an EDR of some sort. Obviously, I'm not going to say what EDR, but it was one of the major ones. And it detected, so I even told them I had this access. It didn't detect me even getting domain admin, but I wanted to get like a shell on their domain controller. And I told them, hey, I'm going to get a shell a few different ways. Tell me if it detects me. So it detected my first method, and I did a slightly more sneaky method, and they didn't see anything. And I had a full shell on their domain controllers, NT System Authority. All right. Looking at YouTube, Kelvin said, you know you have experience working as a SOC analyst and transition to a role as a pen tester. I'm curious about the knowledge and skills you gained as a SOC analyst that have been valuable to you now. So clarity's sake, I've never been a SOC analyst. So we'll start there. I was a senior technical analyst on the blue team, but I just did vulnerability management. A SOC does much more incident response, you're monitoring stuff. What I did is I used Nessus across a massive environment, a really large bank, Nessus across a massive environment, and we'd scan everything and we'd identify like our major vulnerabilities, and then I would write PowerShell scripts to be deployed via SCCM that would detect the vulnerability and then remediate the vulnerability. But I didn't do SOC work, but the experience doing vulnerability management and using Nessus actually leads really well into pen testing, because you do a lot of that as a pen tester as well. Like Nessus is one of the first things you do, and you have to exploit some of those bugs, manually exploit them. I'm not remediating them, I'm exploiting them. But a big part of being a pen tester is communicating with a client. So at the end of most pen tests, I have a debrief with the client where I explain to them, hey, here are some suggested ways that I remediate this vulnerability. And my experience doing vulnerability management was huge in that way, because I actually know what it's like to be on the blue team in a large environment, working through a change control board, working with all the different people you need to work with in order to remediate vulnerabilities. So that was super helpful as I transitioned to being a pen tester. Danker Wonder said, peace out, thanks man, close to my OSCP, my GitHub is filled with blue team tools. I'm getting close to making the jump into the job market. Amazing, dude, you're gonna kill it. Firus Lamb said, do some initial access videos with AV bypassing and all, brother. I don't have too many good AV bypasses I can share. I need to do more research on the AV bypassing side of things. I think with Sliver and some of the implants with Silver, you can obfuscate those right now and you can bypass Defender, but I need to do my own research to figure out how to actually do that. That's just like word of mouth. Zero XNO said, how's it going with the EDRs? I don't really know. Like I don't play with EDRs very often. I'm a pen tester. I don't do much red team stuff. So like as a pen tester, they usually turn most of those things off for me. The exception is like an internal. They'll sometimes leave it on and just like put it in detection mode to see if they can detect me. The Flame said, when they give you VPN access for assumed breach, do you get a set of creds, or just start by trying to dump creds looking for vulnerable hosts in the network? Depends on the client. Sometimes you'll just get VPN access with no AD credentials, and you have to try to get AD credentials. And if you're in person, you can like set up responder and stuff like that. Otherwise, they will give you a set of AD creds that just have no access, like very low level, no privileges, but AD credentials. And then you can get, you can even run Bloodhound and stuff right away there. But it all depends on the client and what they want out of the engagement. I know Phyros, I used to put out some AV bypass videos. I have a few out there, but those are hard to make. Like the AV bypasses take quite a bit of research to figure out like how to bypass it. Like AV bypassing isn't easy. Even bypassing Defender is not easy, because if you just Google like Windows Defender bypass, 99.9% of the bypasses you find aren't going to work because they've been used and detected by Windows Defender. So like the bypasses I find, most of them are ones I've custom modified or created, and as soon as I make a YouTube video about them, they get detected, and then everyone complains in the comments about you lied to us. What strategies do I recommend for approaching and solving hack-the-box machines? One big thing is just watch people work through those machines live. So obviously I have a bunch of videos where I work through hack-the-box machines live, sharing my methodology, and you kind of get a feel for the methodology. People like Tiberius, Al Hazard, however you say his name, Al, IPSEC as well, just watching their methodology and then doing it yourself. So like, the best way to get methodology on solving hack-the-box machines is solving hack-the-box machines. And sometimes that begins, if you're new, following along with the walkthrough, but taking notes on everything that you do. So if you're going through a walkthrough and the initial access is port 80 for HTTP, make sure you document what that initial access was. And as you do enough machines, you start to build up the muscle memory, and it just becomes a little more natural. Like, you know what you're looking for on a CTF, you know what stands out to you, but there's not an easy way to get to that point. The only way to get to that point is doing a bunch of machines and building that muscle memory and building up your note base. How do I research on bypass methods and all, or any good resources to follow? So all of my AV bypass methods have actually been the result of working on CTF, specifically I think try hack me machines. I made a machine called Hack Smarter Security that requires bypassing Windows Defender. And because I made the machine, I had to figure out how to bypass Windows Defender. So one of my bypasses came from my own machine when I was trying to bypass Defender. Another one was from another try hack me machine. I don't remember what it was, but it was like a weird PowerShell script one. And that's where I bypassed Defender with PowerShell, but I took it a step further by making like a .exe that bypassed it. So like all of my AV bypasses have just been me working on CTFs and usually taking it a step further and figuring out how to go like beyond root and create a working AV bypass. Hacks Show Goblin said, "Thank you so much for the great content and advice, Tyler. Have a great night." Thank you, my friend. Vin said, yo, what's up, Tyler? I got to rewatch this one for sure. Shout out to the gym, Smarter Vibes. Yeah, sweet. You will have to rewatch it. Sophia over on YouTube said, in case we realize that our client have opened the attached file and email and run it, what can we investigate? I don't have enough time to explain everything on what you can investigate, but what I would recommend is, here, I can even show you the pathway. Let me go to learn over here and try hack me. We'll go to modules, phishing. So try hack me, you can see I've done most of it besides apparently the last one. Try hack me is an entire phishing module. Learn how to analyze and defend against phishing emails, investigate real world phishing attempts using a variety of techniques. So if you want to know on the blue team side of things, what do you do if a user clicks a phishing email and gives their credentials or whatever to a threat actor? This walks you through how to analyze and do a deep dive into those things. So I recommend this Try Hack Me module. Fyro said, recently Hack the Box introduced a new module with evasion. I think you should check it out. I will. Thank you for letting me know. Is that a Hack the Box Academy or one of the main machines? Either way, I'll be sure to check it out. All right, y'all. I'm going to call it a night. I seriously appreciate all of you taking the time to hang out with me. Let's raid someone, though. We have quite a few people on Twitch. Let's make sure we find someone to raid. Let me share my screen again. Let's go to InfoSec Streamers. Oh, we got BlazeBits. Beautiful. BlazeBits, y'all. If you've never heard of BlazeBits, we're going to raid him. So if you want to join the raid, join me on Twitch, twitch.tv/hack_smarter. BlazeBits does a lot of red teaming type stuff. He's currently working through that course, I think certified red team operator using Cobalt Strike. His content's always amazing. Matter of fact, I'm going to get my headphones pulled up. I'm going to grab this link and pull it up on my other screen so I can get his stuff set up. I'll turn off my desktop audio, but All right, he has 13 people watching. Let's raid him with all 30 of us. And the raid word is hack smarter, not harder. He'll know who we are. Hack smarter, not harder. Let's set up that raid though. Blaze Bits. All right, I'm gonna join the raid before I sign off. I would do try hack me, Geek Girl, I think. All right, everybody, join the raid. Sorry, Geek Girl, I can't answer more questions now because we're gonna do the raid. Everyone join the raid. All right, we're going to raid, and then I'm going to sign off. I'll see you guys over on BlazeBits channel in the chat.